The Indian and Chinese military officials to hold the Lieutenant General level talks at Ladakh's Chushul-Maldo border meeting point to discuss the border situation. Diplomatic level talks were held yesterday between the two sides ahead of today's meeting, where both the sides had agreed to handle differences through peaceful discussion and not allow them to become disputes. Air India begins bookings under Phase 3 of the Vande Bharat mission for select destinations in the US, Canada, UK and Europe. Over 1 lakh Indians brought back through 454 flights under the mission. INS Jalashwa starts its third voyage with 700 Indians from the Maldives. Unlocking underway across the nation, government issues guidelines for opening up religious places, hotels, restaurants and shopping malls from Monday. Maharashtra allows opening of shops except malls and showrooms with the odd-even formula. The government offices in Jammu and Kashmir to function with full strength from today. President promulgates two ordinances with the aim of giving boost to rural India and agriculture. The measures in ordinance will enable barrier-free trade in the agriculture produce and also empower the farmers to engage with the sponsors of his choice. Prime Minister Modi takes forward his agenda to engage with the world leaders in time of the COVID-19 crisis, holds a telephonic conversation with the Rwanda president, expresses satisfaction over progress in the bilateral relations. Both the leaders discuss the challenges posed the global economy and the health services due to the COVID-19 pandemic. India launches brochure outlining priorities for its campaign for the elected seat on the UNSC elections on 17 June. India's approach to be guided by the 5 S's, that is Samman, Samvad, Sahyog, Shanti and Samriddhi, as set out by Prime Minister Modi. The active COVID-19 cases in India rise to 1,10,960 with 1,09,461 recoveries and 6,348 fatalities. The global cases continue to spiral up with over 67 lakh cases with fatalities near 4 lakh. And up ahead, we'll also bring you a story of compassion, kindness and courage by the Indian Army. The Army Jawans valiantly rescued the drowning pregnant barking deer in the Arunachal Pradesh, restoring our faith in humanity. Hello and good morning. You're watching Doordarshan News with me, Nancy Kohli. A top story: the Indian and the Chinese military officials will hold Lieutenant General level talks at Ladakh's Chushul-Maldo border meeting point. The border situation is expected to be discussed during the talks. According to sources, 14th Corps Commander Lieutenant General Harinder Singh will lead the Indian side. Earlier, the Joint Secretary East Asia Naveen Srivastav and the Director General in the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs Wu Jianghao had held a meeting via video conferencing on Friday. The two sides reviewed the state of bilateral relations, including the current developments. In this context, they recalled the consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries that peaceful, stable and balanced relations between India and China will be a positive factor for stability in the current global scenario. Both the sides also agreed that in accordance with the guidance provided by the leadership, the two sides should handle their differences through peaceful discussion, bearing in mind the importance of respecting each other's sensitivities, concerns and aspirations and not allow those to become disputes. Let's now go across to our correspondent Ramesh Chandra, who's joining us from Leh. Ramesh, good morning. So important talks there, the important dialogue between India and China going to be taking place. And remember, yesterday in the video conference, the two sides had agreed to resolve the matter through peaceful discussions and important talks there between India and China. What can we expect from these talks today?
Yeah, good morning. This is very important. Today is very important for the both the countries to de-escalate this tension, whatever is arriving there in Eastern Ladakh. So these are the standard mechanisms right now that both countries have agreed and trusted upon. These mechanisms, several times there was a face-off between both the armies and frontline defense ITBP. But never these tensions or face-offs never become as a dispute. These are because as LAC is an imaginary boundary. As you can you can cross to the other side or they cross to this side. These limited tensions, they resolve at the BPO meetings and that will end there itself. But this time it is slightly a bit ahead, went ahead and people assume that there is something very anyway between both the armies. So the PLA from China and Indian Army are going to meet at Moldo, which is on the Chinese side near Chushul.
Right.
So this is another one post where they used to regularly meet and they know each other and they trust each other and they have been meeting and resolving issues such like these at this point.
Okay, all right. And you know, of course, this border situation is going to be taken up in the talks today, Ramesh. But what are you learning, the specific measures that will be discussed by each side during the talks?
See, now the claims are there from Indian side and by the Chinese side. Now we have to be very categorically state what is your claim and what they are expecting from Indian side. And similarly, the otherwise also, what the Chinese are expecting. So now these points, actually the controversial points, what they say, finger 4 is occupied. Oh, yes, this is a fact from local sources that is saying, because this finger 4 is inaccessible point across the Penang zone. If you have been to Penang Lake, the beautiful side where tourism is allowed, can see the other side of the fingers. Up to 2, we can Indian Army can go by vehicles, but the 3rd and 4th are inaccessible. And about 4th finger, there is one green finger also, which is actually which has greenery and used as pasture land by nomads. So that is also there is also PLA presence right now. So these are all points where both the armies will be discussing today at Moldo, and I definitely Indian Army will ask Chinese to step back.
Okay. All right, Ramesh Chandra, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing those inputs on the India-China talks today. Moving on now, Air India has opened bookings for 75 additional flights to destinations in the US and Canada, including New York, Newark, Chicago, Washington, San Francisco, Vancouver and Toronto under the 3rd phase of the Vande Bharat mission. The 3rd phase will begin from the 9th of this month till the 30th. Around 60 million hits have been received till 7 in the evening, and 1,700 seats have been sold through website alone in 2 hours. Bookings continue and tickets are also being issued. Over 1 lakh Indians have been brought back through 454 flights under the Vande Bharat mission so far. Now, under the second phase of the Operation Samudra Setu, the Indian naval ship INS Jalashwa departed from Malé port on Friday evening with approximately 700 Indian nationals. Immigration and medical checks were carried out before embarkation. Safety guidelines were being strictly adhered to and handling personnel have been provided with full safety gear. The ship is expected to reach Tuticorin on Sunday morning. The evacuated personnel will be disembarked at Tuticorin, Tamil Nadu and entrusted to the care of state authorities. With this trip, the INS Jalashwa will successfully bring back almost 2,700 Indian citizens from the Maldives and Sri Lanka to the Indian shores. The nation is in Unlock 1 mode, and from the 8th of this month, restaurants, hotels, shopping malls and places of worship are also being reopened. The places of worship like temples, mosques, gurudwaras and churches will reopen after remaining closed for over 2 months now. But this time, people will have to take preventive measures suggested by the government to contain the spread of the COVID-19. And according to guidelines, all such places will have to ensure social distancing with face masks mandatory for gaining entrance. Sanitizer dispenser and thermal screening are mandatory at the entry gate. The use of Arogya Setu app has also been suggested. Only asymptomatic persons will be allowed to enter the place of worship. It is also mandatory to take off your shoes before entering. There will be separate entry and exit gates, and social distancing norms are to be followed in full earnest in organizing community kitchen or special food, and special focus should also be on sanitization within the premises. The devotees and the management of the places of worship both will have to follow all these norms strictly. Meanwhile, preparations are going on at the places of worship as per guidelines of the government. Cleanliness drive is on in full swing in various temples across the country. Mosques are also being cleaned as per government guidelines. Sanitizers, tissues, screening machines and other necessary equipment are also being made available at the mosques, and the posters of following social distancing norms are being pasted for the convenience of everyone at the gates. Preparations for reopening have also been almost complete in most churches, and benches used by devotees have also been cleaned.
मंदिर प्रशासन सरकार के द्वारा जारी जितनी भी गाइडलाइंस हैं उनका पूरी तरह से पालन करेगा। जैसे हर एंट्री पॉइंट पर सैनिटाइजिंग की व्यवस्था होगी। हमारा प्रयास यही है कि जो एंट्री पॉइंट है उस पर हम जो है सैनिटाइजिंग टनल लगा रहे हैं, ताकि जो भी मंदिर में प्रवेश करे वो सैनिटाइज होकर जाए। और भक्तों से भी ये निवेदन करेंगे कि वो जब हम दर्शन करने आएँ तो मास्क पहनकर आएँ, बड़े बुजुर्ग और बच्चों को साथ ना लाएं और मंदिर में चढ़ाने के लिए फूल और प्रसाद ना लेकर आएं।
भारत सरकार की जो गाइडलाइन है उसी के एतबार से जो धार्मिक स्थल खुल रहे हैं, ये बड़ी खुशी की बात है कि तमाम धार्मिक स्थल, चाहे वो मस्जिद हो, मंदिर हो, गुरुद्वारा हो, चर्च हो, और सब लोग इस बात की अहमियत को समझ रहे हैं।
We, the Bishops of St. Thomas Evangelical Church of India, welcome the decisions of the Government of India to open the religious places for worship service from 8th of June 2020. People of this land are religious minded, and worship is an integral part of our people, irrespective of religions. We as a church welcome this significant move.
Hotels, restaurants and shopping malls are also being reopened from the 8th of this month, and the government guidelines issued for hotels and restaurants say that sanitizer dispensers and thermal screening are mandatory at the entry gates. The protocol of social distancing with the face mask is also essential for gaining entrance. Proper management of the crowd at parking and other places within the campus. And there will be separate entry and exit gates. Limited number of people will be allowed in the elevators, and for guests it is necessary to give details of the travel history and fill the self-declaration form. The use of hand sanitizers is essential at the reception, and extra precautions are needed for senior citizens and expecting women. Sanitizing luggage is also now essential, and social distancing norms are mandatory while sitting in the restaurants. In fact, also disposable menu has also been suggested. Taking order without coming into contact with the customers and the use of digital payment has also been suggested. The CPWD directions are to be followed for air conditioning. Cleaning campuses, rooms and toilets is very essential. Thermal screening is mandatory for the home delivery staff as well. In Maharashtra, after nearly 70 days of lockdown, all the markets, market areas and shops except malls are reopening across the state after the state government eased restrictions. On one day, all the shops on one side of the road will stay open, while all the shops on the other side of the road will remain open the next day. The activities related to self-employed people like plumbers, electricians, pest control and technicians are also allowed. In the revised guidelines, the state government said that the inter-district movement of people in the MMR should also be allowed. However, no garden, open-air gym and play area equipment will be allowed to operate. Maharashtra, remember, has allowed the opening of shops except malls and showrooms with the odd-even formula. And let's now go across to our correspondent Yogesh Sheetal, who is joining us from Mumbai. Yogesh, first of all, we're getting more details of how Maharashtra has planned this reopening of in the wake of the Unlock 1.0. First of all, what are you seeing around you this morning in terms of the movement of people? And would you say a sort of good news coming in from Maharashtra, because recovery rate and the doubling rate has improved as far as COVID-19 cases are concerned?
Good morning, Nancy. You're right that the recovery rate has also improved by around 41%, and as far as doubling rate is concerned, particularly in Maharashtra and especially in Mumbai, doubling rate has also improved to 20 days. Earlier it was 14 to 15 days. So there are some improvements. Also, let me add that the death rate has also dipped up to 3.3%. So there are some good news. Also, there's no doubt. But let me also remind that yesterday we had witnessed in Maharashtra 139 around the fresh deaths. So this was the first highest spike in COVID deaths in Maharashtra, out of which 54 around deaths were reported in Mumbai, and around 20 deaths were reported in Thane, and also other areas like Pune and also other pockets of Maharashtra. So the situation are very complex here in the city and Maharashtra. Now let me come to your first question, that what is the impact of Unlock First. Maharashtra government had already announced on the line of central government that 3 steps each would be given, the first on 3rd, second on 5th, and third on 8th. So these were the 3 days when the relaxation was started, provided to the people. On 3rd, we had witnessed Nisarg in Maharashtra and Gujarat, so that's the reason why the first step was suspended, and on 5th, the lockdown has started. In fact, yesterday we had witnessed inter-district movement of people within the Mumbai metropolitan region, and definitely it was a great breather. It was a big breather for the people, because it seems that something new is happening, because earlier we had seen that a complete curfew kind of situation is prevailing in the city, and also the outskirts like Thane, like Navi Mumbai, like Kalyan, Palghar. So these are the outskirts. So the situation you can see on the face of the people, they were very happy. But yes, one thing also I must add at this point in time, that the people, they are themselves voluntarily, they are contributing to the fight against coronavirus. We had also had word with some of them. They are saying that despite the government has given us relaxation, but it is our duty to ensure that social distancing is being followed, and we don't do something which will go against the society at large. So, in fact, people are, just fighting shoulder to shoulder to COVID with the help of the government, with a state body or a clear government. So the situation is, getting back to track. The people are getting back to track. But as you have also mentioned, that whatever relaxation has been given, there are some terms and conditions. Like if you go to the go for shopping, then you cannot use trial room. You have to go through thermal screening. You have to maintain social distancing. So there are certain conditions that have been imposed. Yeah, Nancy.
All right, Yogesh, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing those inputs there as far as, of course, reopening of the shops there except malls in the state of Maharashtra is concerned. Thanks very much. Moving on now, in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the government offices shall function with all officials and staff. As per guidelines of the central government, the employees at high risk, like expecting women, elderly and those having underlying medical conditions, are being asked to take extra precautions. In addition, the administration has advised them to work from home as much as possible. Moreover, the measures to curb the pandemic under the SOP of the Health and the Family Welfare Ministry will strictly be complied with in all the offices. President Ramnath Kovind has promulgated the 2 ordinances with an aim of giving a boost to rural economy and to help farmers. These 2 ordinances are the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Ordinance 2020 and the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Ordinance 2020. Both the ordinances have been approved by the Cabinet recently. These 2 ordinances will enable the barrier-free trade in agriculture produce and also empower the farmers to engage with the sponsors of his choice. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a phone call with the President of Rwanda on Friday. And during the talks, the Prime Minister expressed satisfaction at the progress achieved in the bilateral ties since his memorable visit to Rwanda in 2018. The President of Rwanda warmly recalled the 200 Indian cows gifted by Prime Minister Modi during his 2018 visit and explained that they had helped in improving the availability of milk for Rwandan children and also increased the income of the farmers. The leaders discussed the challenges posed to their healthcare systems and economies by the COVID-19 pandemic. They also shared information about the steps taken in the respective country to manage the crisis and ensure the well-being of their citizens. The leaders agreed to extend all the possible support to each other's expatriate citizens during the present crisis. Prime Minister Modi assured the Rwandan President of India's steadfast support to Rwanda's efforts to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, including through medical assistance. He appreciated the effective management of the crisis under the President's leadership and the firm resolve of the people of Rwanda in combating this challenge. Prime Minister Modi conveyed his best wishes for the health and the well-being of the people of Rwanda during the present crisis. India is taking its campaign for securing a seat at the UNSC as a non-permanent member a notch up. The election for the seat will be held on the 17th of June. And outlining the priorities for the campaign, the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar released a brochure in the national capital. The brochure enlists India's priorities for its campaign. The minister also underlined the constructive global role India can play when the world is confronting the menace of COVID-19 and its economic fallout. The brochure enlists India's priorities, which include new opportunities for progress, approach to international terrorism, reforming the multilateral system, a comprehensive approach to international peace and security, and promoting technology with a human touch as a driver of solutions. And moving on now, taking a look at the impact of COVID-19 in India. So far, a total of 109,461 patients have been cured of COVID-19. The recovery rate has improved amongst the COVID-19 patients, and presently there are 110,960 active cases and all are under active medical supervision. 6,348 people have lost their lives due to COVID-19 so far. And now we are bringing you a story of compassion, kindness and courage by the Indian Army. A unit of the Indian Army in the Tenga district of Arunachal Pradesh has rescued a barking deer, which is an endangered species. The patrolling unit observed a deer drowning in the river, and after the deer recovered, it was discovered that it was pregnant at the time. The Army then handed over the deer to the forest department, clearly showing how we all need to be so kind to the animals. And moving on now, it's critical to follow good hygiene practices such as physical distancing, wearing masks, avoiding spitting in the public places, and the regular use of clean toilets. We should inculcate these habits in our daily lives as we are moving towards the new normal. Watch this video to know more.
स्वच्छता और साफ सफाई बीमारियों से दूर रहने और समाज के स्वास्थ्य के लिए बहुत जरूरी है। वर्तमान समय में कोरोना वायरस महामारी के चलते सावधानी बरतना और इन 5 साफ आदतों का पालन करना और आवश्यक हो गया है। हमेशा शौचालय का इस्तेमाल करें और शौचालय को साफ रखें। दिन में कई बार अपने हाथ साबुन से 20 सेकंड तक अच्छे से धोएं। किसी भी सार्वजनिक जगह पर ना थूकें। पीने के पानी को साफ और सुरक्षित जगह पर ढक कर रखें। घर से बाहर या काम पर जाते समय हमेशा मास्क पहनें और दूसरों से पर्याप्त दूरी बनाए रखें। इन 5 साफ आदतों का पालन करें। स्वच्छ रहें, स्वस्थ रहें।
And with that, it's a wrap on this newscast. Thanks for being with us.